John, today is one of those shows where I've got to ask, what if nobody voted? Because I don't really know what you're going to tell us tonight. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well, Jason. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing? You look good
Thank
in
you.
your short sleeve shirt in November.
Well,
Quite the
it's
fashion
been,
risk. Quite the fashion risk.
yeah, it's been unseasonably warm here in New York, and I'm no worse for the wear having been throttled, choked in the street by a thug. It's funny, the stupid Mario brothers have started a campaign to claim that it's a hoax, that it didn't happen, despite the fact that it's on video and I've shown photo evidence of the strangulation marks. We're not going to be talking about that tonight. Everybody knows on Fridays, John, we've got our sponsor exclusive show that people can watch on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. A lot of stuff going on with people getting ready for the midterm elections. What are we going to talk about tonight, John?
Well, I was raised listening to George Carlin, and I remember George Carlin saying, "Yeah, I don't vote. This way, you can't look at me and say I had nothing to do with this, right?" He's like, "This is your problem. You guys said I had nothing to do with this." And that always kind of, that registered with me. And I just thought, it just seems like it's the only thing that matters is your vote. They don't really care what you think. They don't really want to share the truth with us about what's actually happening in the world. But when it comes to these votes,
Yeah.
boy, it's like the golden ticket. You'd think it's the Willy Wonka. It's like the vote, the vote. Barack Obama hasn't been president for 6 years. He's got a mansion in Martha's Vineyard, and he's getting up off the couch to go campaign. Why?
Well, because I think he knows
What?
that they're basically screwed, and he's coming from a long line of criminals that need to protect their criminality. Um,
But why would he care? You think 6 years out, you're retired. He's got his money. He's got the house in Martha's Vineyard. They took all the people who came to Martha's Vineyard. They got rid of that
yeah,
problem. That problem's been taken care of. And yet the guy is campaigning. He's flying around the country campaigning for people for these midterms. And so it seems like the only currency that seems to matter to these people, it's not the truth. It seems like it's just the vote. And so the hypothetical question is, well, what if we took it away? What if everybody just said, well, we've had it. We've had it with you and your stupidity, and we're just not gonna vote anymore. So instead of rock the vote and the Motor Voter Act, I want to kind of go the other way. I want to kind of go back towards the George Carlin way of thinking and just say, well, what if we all took a stand, and rather than, the Tea Party movement, that's kind of played out, right? This whole let's
well,
not pay our taxes thing, come
I
on,
don't.
that's played. They did this already, 1776. Then we had the recent new Tea Party, the Neo Tea Party. I'm saying rather than not pay the taxes, let's just not vote.
We're not
Let's just not
advising
vote.
anyone to not pay taxes, and are we advising
No,
people not to vote? How would it help?
no.
I don't understand.
Oh, I don't know that it would help, but it seems
Ah,
to be the one thing that they all are obsessed about. Everybody wants your vote. They're flying all over. They're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on television commercials to
yeah.
get your vote. What
Oprah
if
wants
nobody showed up?
Fetterman.
Well, we're going to talk about Fetterman. We're going to talk about that because this is another example of when politics kind of goes awry, right? And when the political agenda uh, just doesn't seem to connect with reality in any way whatsoever. And we're going to take a close look. We've got some video clips tonight of the Fetterman debate with Dr. Oz. And we have a compilation that we're going to watch with our patrons because, quite frankly, it's a bit too brutal to watch here on YouTube. So we're going to watch this with our patrons. And we're going to ask, what if everybody in Pennsylvania just said, you know what? Nah, we're not going to show up. We're not voting for Dr. Oz. We're not voting for the TV guy. We're not voting for this. We're not voting for anybody. And just no one shows up at the polls. Almost like a Twilight Zone episode. Just nobody shows up that day. Remember when the COVID lockdown hit and the streets were empty?
I missed that, frankly. I was walking the streets unfettered.
Wasn't that great? Wouldn't it be cool if that's what happened and nobody showed up and nobody mailed in and there was no votes? Nobody voted. What would they do? They spent all this money. Barack Obama got on a plane and flew over here. And now, how much campaigning has Joe Biden been doing? Did Joe Biden fly anywhere this past week to campaign for anybody?
I don't know.
Or was he still finishing his pudding?
Philadelphia, I think, for Fetterman. Did you see this Fetterman commercial where he's like channeling Mean Joe Green? Remember that commercial way back when? Here it is. That commercial way back when Mean Joe Green is like walking down the hallway and the kid's like, hey, Mean Joe, have a Coca-Cola. This is the commercial. Have you seen this thing? Oh, we got some other sound going, but the point is, the production value on this is so bad. It's like Fetterman did this with his own iPhone and a tripod and some kid from the neighborhood. No lighting, no writing, no actors. It is so poorly done. The fact that he would do this and release, I feel like 15-year-old kids in a high school AV class could produce a better piece of content than this. Did you see it?
I'm watching it now with you. This is beautiful.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, at least it's a 2-camera shoot. I like the way that they hid
It's so stupid, man.
His conjoined
He's just pounding
fetus
the
twin.
coke, ignoring the kid.
Yeah, but the fact that they hid the conjoined fetus twin that's growing on the back of his neck, right? So the fact that they were able to, the thing on the back of his neck, he's got growing back. Yeah,
what
so
is
they
that?
hid that.
There's a lot of health concerns with this guy. I can't believe that's an actual campaign ad. That is one of the worst produced things I've ever seen.
You see, what I can't believe is that
do you see this shirt?
He's winning. That's the part that I'm struggling with here.
No, I don't think he is. I think that's just, look at what the guy's shirt says.
What's it say? It
says Trump is a jagoff, and the kid is like 10.
That's nice. That's high.
Listen, John,
class stuff.
I don't think he's winning. I think what's happening is we are now so deeply down the timeline of this social engineering stipulated reality that there are some people who have had so much success in doing this that they actually believe tweeting something can will it into existence. And by tweeting, oh, John Fetterman is winning, and by tweeting that ridiculous amateurish ad campaign, I mean, that seems like a parody. That is worse production quality than I would expect from a parody in 2022. I mean, I produce all of my videos with iPhones. I don't know what they use to make that look so bad.
It's not very good. And this is what we're going to explore. Again, last week we talked about how the facts don't seem to matter. So now that we've established that, right? So now that we know the facts don't matter whatsoever, we're going to look at the candidates and we're going to look at who is coming back up for re-election that is struggling, and why might that be? People like Gretchen Whitmer. We're going to take a look at her. We're going to take a look at what happened with people like Jerry Nadler and a couple of the other folks that are running. But in the deck, a couple slides I wanted to share with the audience just to kind of set this up and kind of set the tone here. So first of all, if you guys aren't following me on Elon Musk's Twitter,
jackass,
you can do that, right? So you can follow me now on Elon Musk's Twitter.
666, John.
So I've got 6,603, and I'm following 111. So if you multiply the 111 times 3, that's
no, it's
666
right now.
Is it right now? Oh, look at that.
6606. So that's fabulous. In honor of Elon Musk. Now he's revealed that he is Baphomet.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
Baphomet for Halloween. And I had a photo of me because I went Halloween and I had a picture of me in my Halloween costume. I forgot to put in the deck though. I'll have to send it to you separately. At Heidi Klum's party. I didn't
Wait a
see
minute
you
though.
there though.
Did
You weren't
you?
there.
I
You weren't at
wasn't
Heidi Klum's.
invited, but the you've been to Abracadabra as a prestidigitator. I'm sure you're familiar with one of New York's last remaining magic, and it's become more of a costume shop, but it's
Yeah.
also traditionally a magic shop. Mostly a costume shop now. Do you know that that stupid costume that he wore was $7,500?
I don't
Devil's
doubt it.
champion.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Costumes are expensive.
I
That's
mean,
an
I thought it
that
was a piece
store.
of plastic crap.
No,
$7,500 to wear one. I mean, that's crazy.
no, I don't think that's plastic. I think
No,
that's
it's
like
leather.
handmade. Yeah, yeah, that's handmade leather. That's serious stuff, man. That's expensive
That's
stuff.
weird. I mean,
Yeah.
if this was $100, $200 to a super billionaire, I would say, all right, that's a joke. But he's got to know, why not tell whoever bought that costume, can you go find me the best $500 costume and give $7,000 to people who don't have anything to eat tonight? I mean, I'm not talking about instead of 44 billion on Twitter, solve world hunger, but that seems like a gratuitous waste of money to send a message to people that he loves Baphomet and the devil. As you can probably tell, and you and I have also spoken offline, my perception of Elon Musk has shifted dramatically over the past several days.
Well, it could also be a pun. It could be that he's pretending that he is the devil. In other words, people are
I don't know
calling
if
him
he's
the devil, so
pretending.
he dressed up like one. In other
Yeah, I
words,
don't know.
he's saying, "Okay, I'm the devil. Fine, I'll wear the fucking devil costume, and I'll be the devil. That's fine." Let's go to the deck. Let me show you guys what I have here.
Did he address the Baphomet
I don't
costume?
I don't know. I don't know. We saw the same thing on the tail of Dan Bilzerian's jet, right? When we saw Dan Bilzerian's jet in
Well, that's
Vegas,
what I mean. And Dan
and we said,
Bilzerian,
what was with the Rams head Baphomet thing on the tail of the jet? What's that all about?
I think
I'm
Bilzerian
so
is a
far
jackass
removed from
too.
that stuff. Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff. I don't look
It's
into
caused a
that.
backlash.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then you showed me like the opening ceremony to CERN and stuff like that, and I was like, what
Right.
the hell was that? The strangest stuff you've ever seen. So it's a whole world. I don't, to me, spreadsheets and pie charts are my kind of thing. I like maps, right? But the whole devil worship, I don't know anything about that stuff.
Not with that.
All right, so it was the one and only Mark Twain who said if voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us
That's
do
good.
it.
I like that.
Right? So you take that, and that has to be the foundational element for George Carlin's bit. Now, we have George Carlin's bit queued up. We're going to play that with our patrons as soon as we get to the patron-only show, because that's really the foundational element here, which is the government wants us to take responsibility for all this stuff, and yet the candidates that they offer us tend to be less than ideal. And it makes you wonder, well, what kind of people run for these offices, right? So we're going to take a closer look at that. Now, meanwhile, last week, our patrons found out that the influenza season is worse than it's been in 13 years. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that. That's a surprise. That came out
But
of
was
nowhere,
that last
right?
week? You've known that for a long time.
But last week, this story broke, and we were only able to share this with our patrons. So patrons are getting to see information that we just can't fit into the 25 minutes that we're here on YouTube.
Well, let me
and
just
YouTube
slightly
kind of
correct you,
limits the
John.
stuff we talk about. Yeah. What's
Last year, the patients were
Yeah.
the viewers, the patrons were privy to this information. It's only that we can discuss it now on YouTube because the Washington Post has anointed it as truthful, even though we knew it was before.
Yeah. 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 So according to the Washington Post, the Jeff Bezos team, the flu season is more severe than it's been in 13 years. Well, our audience knows that influenza has been killing more people than COVID for 6.5, 7 months now. So this is not a surprise to our audience. This is like, yeah, we kind of knew that because we watch you guys. So let's jump ahead. So Biden and Obama said the GOP is now a threat to democracy.
Unbelievable.
Now, this must scare all the children who are learning about democracy in civics class, right? So I'm sure they're learning about the Constitution and the drafting of the Declaration of Independence, and I'm sure the kids are learning that and wondering, oh my gosh, mommy, how is this a threat to democracy?
Do you know what I thought about when he said that?
What?
Well, a lot of times when people say, ooh, democracy and our democracy and a threat to democracy and blah, 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 somebody will say, but we're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic.
Constitutional republic, right.
And so it started me to think, I like to get into the etymology of words to really try to understand what it is that they mean. Because very often we're now several hundred years down the line of when these words came into common usage, and we kind of lose the meaning of them sometimes. And it's interesting that we have Republicans who might be fully for a republic and Democrats who might be more for democracy. And then I think about things like the People's Democratic Republic of China and all that. It's like, is democracy actually what we want, or is a constitutional republic what we want? And what exactly is stupid Joe Biden saying when he's spewing this crap from the hole in his face? One of the many holes in his face.
Well, this is really the question is, and if you go to the next slide, you'll see Obama, the same thing. So Obama is saying democracy may not survive.
We might want that, I'm saying. We need to figure out what it is exactly that they're talking about. I might prefer the republic to democracy.
Yeah, I want to understand when they say that democracy is not going to survive and a threat to in what meaning you won't be able to vote anymore? Meaning we're not going to have paper.
Be fired, is what I think.
We're not going to have a pencil. There's not going to be a pencil to vote. They're going to get rid of ballot boxes. How is democracy? This is the part I'm having a hard time understanding. So we're going to get rid of people who can count? Well, that may be the case. There may be nobody that can count over 100 anymore because we don't teach math in school. We teach genders, and if there's only 36 or 38 genders, well, then who needs to count higher than that? We don't really need to count higher than 36 or 38 if there's 36 or 38 genders. So how are we going to count all the votes? How long? Go back to Obama. Obama warns democracy may not survive in Arizona if election deniers win.
You and I did a show. Arizona collapsed.
You and I did a show. You and I did a show with Shepard Ambellis. It had to be 2 years ago when the main election, the presidential election, they were still counting the ballots in Arizona like 6 weeks after the election. And so what I'm wondering is when he's saying democracy might not survive, is he talking about we might not be able to count the votes anymore at all because it took us 6 or 8 weeks to count them last time over there? Why did it take so long to count the votes in one state and not so long to count the votes in other states? Why did that happen? Is there an explanation for that? And when he's saying that it may not survive, in what way?
So hang on. Let's look at this for a second because I want definitions. We have to all agree and understand on what we're talking about here. So the principles of the American Republic, what is the meaning of a constitutional republic? A constitutional republic means that it is one in which, rather than directly governing, which sounds like a democracy, the people select some of their members to temporarily serve in political office. The constitutional part means that both the citizens and their governing officials are bound to follow the rules established in that Constitution. See, John, I think I never studied root cause analysis in the way that you have, but I think I like it because now we've gotten to the root cause of this problem. Maybe we don't want democracy to survive. We want the constitutional republic to survive because it's quite clear that there are numerous elements of evidence that inform us that the Constitution is in serious danger. You don't have the First Amendment. You don't have the Second Amendment in New York. I don't even have the protection of the police or them being honest and looking at facts. Democracy might not be what we want here. We need the constitutional republic restored.
Correct. Democracy is a process. The constitutional republic is the entity. The process of democracy, I don't, again, if they take away the ballot boxes, I think the software, I think all voting software is a threat to democracy. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
Because
But
you
to
believe that
me,
any piece of computer software could be hacked, irrespective of
yeah,
the security.
it's not even hacked. It's the things you can do with
Manipulated.
it without even hacking. It's
Right.
features
Right.
of the software. Yeah,
That could
you don't
change
have to hack it.
fundamentally the way it all works. I agree with you.
The
Subtle
interpretation
things.
and all that,
Subtle
right? We
things.
talked about how the AI gets triggered and how often does the AI get triggered, things like that. So to me, software being involved. Now, somebody may want to debate that and say, well, don't you remember the hanging chads? Don't you remember
Yeah.
when Al Gore and we had hanging chads in Florida and we couldn't figure out who voted for whom because of hanging chads, right? So there's an argument on both sides. I don't know which one's more reasonable than the other one, but I'm just not a fan of software involved in this process as a software guy. I kind of like the paper ballot concept. The fact that it takes certain states months to count them, I
Well,
find odd.
it speaks to the poor quality of public education and education in general in the United States. And I mean, again, I don't mean to focus on the NYPD so much, but they are proof that the average American is extremely undereducated, not good at critical thinking, not good at problem solving, and it's only getting worse.
There you go. If you go to the next slide in the deck, you've got the lovely and talented
Oh
Hillary
boy.
Clinton. Although the article says Obama campaigning in Georgia, the images of Hillary warns
All
of threats to
Democrats look the
democracy.
same.
Again, these are threats to democracy. So if democracy is simply the process of casting the vote, and as you've pointed out, the constitutional republic is more the entity in the process, what is the threat to democracy? I need a piece of paper, 2 names on it, and a pencil and a box to put it in. Are you going to take away the box? Where's the threat to the democracy part?
Corky Goss is bringing up, I've always found this interesting. You look at what we perceive to be less sophisticated countries like Iraq or whatever, and the people come out and they have like ink on their thumb where they have already voted, and the ink stays there for a few days, and there's one day to vote. And the idea is if you show up with ink on your thumb, you can't vote again. It's simple, but
Kind of works, right?
it kind of works.
You don't need software. Yeah, you don't need software for everything, right? I don't want to have to boot up Windows to make a cup of coffee. You don't need software for everything.
Even
you just
NT?
don't need it.
You might get coffee out of Windows
God.
NT.
Oh
but
my God! It takes 7 minutes just to get the machine up and running.
You're going to need
So-
admin access.
But isn't this interesting? How kind of the big characters from the Democratic Party, Hillary, Obama, they're flying all over the place. They got her running around with
They're
Kathy
desperate.
Hochul. And you it kind of makes you wonder, well, why? We've built back better. That's obvious,
No.
right? Inflation's, oh, come on, big deal. So what? So what? A dozen eggs cost $9. Big deal. Don't get caught up in the details. It's just so what, right? So we're obviously building back better, and Joe Biden's got the respect of all the leaders around the world, and that's all goodness. So democracy as we know it. Again, I think we've overcomplicated democracy. You've pointed out the constitutional republic, and we've already heard certain Congress people starting to say that the way that we do elections in America needs to change. And as you've pointed out, some of them want a straight up democracy, right?
Yeah,
Where
right.
Alaska
They want to get
will
rid
only
of the
have
college, the
yes,
electoral,
the electoral college. Yeah, the electoral college.
And Hillary is like the
with that-
spokesperson for that because she's like, I lost the popular
Yeah.
vote. Blah, blah. But that's
course.
how the constitutional republic works. And those things were put in there to make it equal, even when you have a country where there's, a state where there's, let's say, 30,000 farmers whose vote is weighed against 6 million trans activists because they all live in a major city. There needs to be a balance against those two viewpoints.
Alaska only has 650,000 people. Brooklyn has 5 times the population of Alaska.
And let me tell you something.
Brooklyn
sucks. Listen, we're out of time, but we're going to be continuing this wonderful conversation on our sponsor-exclusive segment. People are going to be able to join us there in less than 5 minutes on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. My apologies to Brooklynites. You're not as bad as Staten Island, but I'm feeling salty tonight. We'll see everybody over there on Patreon and subscribe. You know what I'm talking about with Brooklyn. It's a pain in the ass.
I lived
Thanks
in
for
Brooklyn.
watching, everybody.